American tradition of barbecue is deep and wide. No one owns it, but there are many experts. There's no best way to do it, but many signposts by people that have embraced this style of cookery as a way of being. Chef Aaron Patin of Iron Grate Barbecue is one of those chefs. He's part of a generation that, over the past 10 years, have taken on barbecue as a different type of medium. He's cast off the white chef coat and the safe career path for something that's entirely of his own and on his own accord.
You know, I was born in Texas, gave a couple years to the south end, Nashville, Tennessee, but I learned about barbecue in the south side of Chicago, and that was about 12, 13 years ago. So I wanted to bring some of that technique and flavors up here to Wisconsin because I felt like it was missing here. So if we were going to open a place in Milwaukee, I wanted it to be niche and something I love doing, just playing with fire. The hard part about tuning fire for barbecue is that it's not a campfire, it's not a bonfire. You want a really, really big coal bed, and it's the combustion of wood that releases the gases you want, nitrogen and carbon, to give the meat the actual crust and clean flavor that you want. So you notice there's not all this smoke billowing out everywhere, because that's the kind of smoke that's not going to give a very clean flavor. That's all the dirty soot smoke. The smoke that you actually want when you're smoking meat is the gases that you can't see. So when you're seeing a smokehouse or a smoker that's hot smoking meat and you see billowing smoke coming out, probably not going to taste very clean and delicious. This is a whole brisket. It's the whole just below the neck and the outside pectoral part of the animal. And what makes this so much intermuscular fat, you think when a cow lays down, they lay down sitting up and they're folding their legs down in all four and they want to stand up. What they do is they'll put a leg out and they push themselves up with each leg. And you got a couple thousand pounds of weight that you're pushing up. It's like doing, push-ups at home yourself. All you're doing is building these pectoral muscles, right? And all that does is build this really strong intermuscular fat, and makes a really nice whole muscle. We'll get a bust up and we can do a little bit of rubbing the meats. We use only 2 rubs for our meat. Grandpa's spice goes on all of our pork. It's pretty interesting to see the difference in the seasoning for a hot link pork sausage, to use it for the pork butt and to use it for the Milwaukee rib. It's all pork, but different cuts of meat take on and absorb the flavor of the rub differently. So it's pretty interesting to see that contrast. And then we have Pony Boy spice, kind of an homage to The Outsiders, one of my favorite books growing up. Stay Gold, right? A little bit more mustard, black pepper, brown sugar mixture in there, so it gives a nice kind of Midwestern mustardy flavor to it. Stay Gold, Pony Boy. We want to be able to get into all the little nooks there, because especially around the outside, all the outside of this, that's going to be the flavor that you taste first, right? But that's what's going to give it that nice barky crust though too, and you want that part to be seasoned. But we let it sit at least 24 hours so that it all has time to penetrate too.
Boom. This is the Milwaukee rib. But you can see basically what we do is we'll take the spare ribs and we'll cut them shorter in length and still leave everything on top of the belly there. And my biggest complaint whenever having ribs was that as filling as they were to have a whole slab, I always wanted more. I wanted more meat. I didn't want to have to eat a whole slab of ribs to get what I wanted, everything in between, and then as a butcher, I looked at, well, why are we taking the ribs off of meat if we want more meat on the ribs? Just leave it attached. So it's kind of a natural answer. So this isn't about half slab or a full slab. Because they're so rich, it's by weight like we do all the other meats. So we sell it by the pound, and depending on the size of the belly, the whole size of the animal, a pound can end up being, 3 or 4 bones. And it's so rich, 3 or 4 bones, that's all you're gonna need. Trying to find a meat shop or a butcher who could do this for me was the hardest part, because I'm you're walking in blind somewhere and you're like, hey, the way you cut an animal for all these other restaurants, I need you to do it different. Here's why. And I heard no 4 or 5 times before I heard a yes. You know, then it was finding, all right, where are we gonna get the animals from?
Yeah, I grew up 500 feet down the road, and I never would have dreamed that I would have owned this property. You know, every day when I was a kid, driving to school, we drive by this barn, and you know, you'd see the sun glistening off it in the morning, and you know, just never would have dreamed we would have been here doing what we're doing today. I went to college at Carroll University for 4 years and ended up working in marketing for the last 4 or 5 years full time, and just never would have dreamed we'd be trying to do this. This is a dream, and it's the beginning of a dream. It's a really exciting time for us. What are you gonna water, buddy?
The tree stump.
You want to water the tree stump? It's looking a little dry. Need some water. Typical day, we're getting about 100 eggs a day, which is pretty good production. I'll usually like inspect the birds every day. You know, check them for mites. Obviously, you can see sometimes I've been on farmers where they'll have a bunch of mites here, and they actually see that the feather quality is really bad. They'll have a lot of holes in their feathers. All of our birds have been mite-free. Haven't had any problems, and I attribute that to the stocking density. There's 6 square feet per bird inside this building, and they have a nice run outside right now. I think it's really interesting how we can integrate the hogs and the laying hens into one system versus like kind of keeping them as separate entities. You know, we can do multiple things here. We actually feed all of our broken and cracked eggs to our hogs as well. We'll hard boil them, which doubles the amount of available protein. And down here, we have our pasture for our red wattle hogs. We currently have 7 animals on the farm. It's my first year with the breed, and I kind of stumbled into it by accident. We were looking at, you know, different ways we can utilize the resources that are on this farm, and we have some structures, we have a little bit of land here, and what's the best use of it? And we decided that we wanted to focus on a meat animal, and we ended up choosing swine because they're a quick turnaround, they're fairly easy to care for. Well, so we thought when we started. We get a few people that think we're crazy. I had one particular experience where we had a gentleman come up to our farm, and he was telling me that pigs don't graze on grass, and that there's no way I was going to be able to raise pigs on pasture. Well, as you'll see there, pigs definitely do graze, and it can account for 10 to 30% of their diet. I think that pigs do better on pasture. I think they're happier. You know, there's nothing wrong with a little fresh air and sunshine. Being a farmer and being able to work with somebody like Chef Aaron allows me to break through another knowledge barrier that I have as a beginning farmer, and I can learn the food industry and learn from somebody, especially when it comes to our hog enterprise that has an area of expertise that I can tap into, and I can learn from him and he can learn from me. So when I face a challenge or I have to make a decision in regards to my hogs and how we go about planning our breeding or planning our season in terms of our hog enterprise, I have somebody that I can rely on. It's a great resource that helps me avoid making mistakes and avoid some pitfalls that a beginning farmer can easily fall into.
Hey, Cam.
Aaron, what's up?
How's it going, buddy?
Good, how you doing?
Good to catch up with you.
Nice to catch up with you too.
Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, hogs are doing great.
Looking good.
Filling out nicely.
So which one's lined up for us?
Yeah, one of these guys right here actually.
Yeah.
They'll be ready to go end of October, early November. So I think that fits your timeline.
Yeah, perfect. We'll be ready for that.
Yeah, they'll go in when they're about 250 pounds live weight.
Yep.
And that'll be about 160 pounds of usable meat.
Excellent. Tell me about what you have in the pasture now.
Right now we got a legume grass mix this year. Legumes are really important for hogs, a lot of usable protein. We have 2 types of clovers in here, and then we also have alfalfa, that's this stuff.
I'm anxious to see how much some of this clover and alfalfa really plays into the flavor of the meat.
Yep.
The fact that they have all this pasture to run around in is what helps make their muscle development grow, which will give a better marbling into the meat, which will spread out the fat content in the meat itself and give it a much more juicy end result, which I'm looking for. Red wattle is one of those animals I feel that being able to roast them whole, make them delicious, but also into individual cuts as well. It's the great everyday pig for me. It's the breed that no matter what cut I have, it's going to be delicious.
Red wattles are a heritage breed, and heritage breeds are animals that are considered to be genetically unique, meaning if a red wattle breeds with a red wattle, you're going to get a red wattle. A red wattle takes 8 to 9 months to reach market weight, whereas a typical commercial hog, you're looking at maybe 5 to 6 months total. So these hogs obviously lack the characteristics that pertain to a production-based system. We're not a production-based system, we're a quality-based system, niche market, and we're also trying to protect this species.
One of the things I love to do when you see them out here and you get up close to them, really being able to like pay attention, like we talked about the measurements of them, but looking at their muscles, right? Yep. Looking at their cheeks, looking at their jowls, looking at how the ham and the shoulder structures are, looking at like where, like, you know, sorry guys, but length of their loin is going to be, size, width, everything. I mean, it's amazing just to be able to get so up close and know like the yield that you're going to be able to pull out of that.
You'll actually almost handle the product before it becomes the product.
It's like test driving a car.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Kim, thanks again for having me. You got it. Looking forward to having one of these guys here, right?
Yeah, take care.
You know, I was born and raised in the South, primarily in Texas, and you know, I knew that a barbecue restaurant was something I wanted to do for a long time, and you know, anyone who knows anything about roasting meat, smoking meat, will tell you that the only way to get it the way you truly want to get it, to have it be the right way, is all powered by wood, and that means my bedtime is 8 p.m. tonight.
This is only like 200 pounds, 400 pounds right now, I think, 400 pounds of meat. It's good enough for lunch. So Edna's actually number 2 of 3 of the smokers that we have. Just to give you an idea, like the way offset smokers work, your fire's on this side, your smokestack's on the other end, and the stack is what pulls all the heat across. I'm gonna tell people, you build a fire, and when the fire is ready, you put the meat in, and you know you're gonna cook it for so long that don't even worry about the meat. Once it goes in, your attention goes to the fire. So we're gonna wait about another hour till this fire dies down, but we have a nice big coal bed. And then from there, meat will be ready to go on. And then we keep adding log or 2 throughout the day to keep the fire going. These cast iron grates inside are really heavy. It's 24 inches by 28 inches each one. These were part of ramps for his livestock. They get loaded onto the truck, so the weight capacity that they're able to handle is tremendous. But thus the name Iron Grate Barbecue came from that. So the brisket will start fat side down, and halfway through the cook we'll flip it. Those briskets will be for dinner time, so I go for about 12 hours, so we're looking at about 3:30, 4 o'clock in the PM. We'll let them rest before we slice into them. Shoulders will take about 8 hours, ribs will take about 4.5.
Patin.
Kyle, CHEREK.
How are you, buddy?
Good, nice to see you.
Good to see you.
Welcome, welcome.
Thank you. Iron Grate.
Iron Grate Barbecue Company, here we are.
It is a huge privilege to be here.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah. So it's 200 temp inside Edna.
Yeah, about 225 we run at, so it's I gotta tend the fire a little bit. But as we're starting to come up for lunch, we'll let it, you know, cool down a little bit and just kind of have it be a holding tank. And then we'll build the fire back up later on in the day for dinner. So these are today's lunch briskets and a few that got put on a little bit later for dinner. And what we're gonna do is kind of give them a little temperature, and we wanna feel kind of that nice jello-y jiggle look.
And the iron grates hold and retain the heat differently so you get that deep radiant heat into the meat.
Exactly.
Which just seems so rudimentary and obvious, but most of the rest of the barbecue world just doesn't do it.
Well, we're also having an uphill battle with the temperatures outside. That most barbecue places around the country.
Barbecue in sensible, warmer places.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the being able to maintain that heat once she gets brought up to temperature is a key factor for us. So having the heavier grates really play a huge factor in the day-to-day cooking come 0 degree weather out here.
So it's really just form function.
Exactly.
Yeah.
As you can see how this really starts to just tear apart. Take a little taste. It'll be hot. I'll forewarn.
I believe in this. I believe in this endeavor.
A little burnt end here, if you will.
Yeah.
And just know that it's really, really hot.
That is meaty ambrosia.
So we got, this is our pork hot link here.
Yeah.
So we add a little bit of diced pork loin into the ground pork and a little bit of one of the grandpa spice rubs that we have here at the restaurant we use. And so you have a nice kind of snappy texture to it.
You're a chef in Milwaukee, you gotta do a good sausage.
Good sausage, right?
Yeah.
The weight is there for that.
Yeah.
Down here is the Milwaukee ribs that we're letting rest. So this is our bone-in pork belly. See, it's all nice and soft, jiggly. And then back here's our pork butt, but you'll be able to see, just as I stick that thermometer in there, how soft and subtle that tears apart.
That's coming my way. Breakfast of Champions, hello friend. Wow, look at the smoke ring on the edge of that. Okay, this is how our ancestors ate literally 1.6 million years ago. I'm still happy to do it.
Still juicy to be able to get that nice shredded texture, not have it be dry.
Which is key, and it is still so juicy. It's as if it were soaked in this unctuous wash of its own juices, but you just pulled that right off of the piece.
Just right off, yeah. Just a dry rub and fire. The finishing touch that we do is a little bit of a meat glaze.
I love
here.
the enormous home paintbrush,
Yeah.
by the way.
So we'll take this. This is literally just some of its own fat that we render out when we baste it. So after we slice it before it goes out, just to get it one more final glaze of its own juiciness. So our core menu has 9 menu items, which means that like we have to do our job and make those 9 menu items really delicious, as opposed to making like 30 or 40 different things okay.
All right, chef, my friend Aaron, let's start at 12 o'clock, and by 12 o'clock, I do not mean 1 minute past at the butter.
Got it. Cornbread.
Yes.
Those are the pork hot links.
Milwaukee rib.
Milwaukee rib, bone-in pork belly. Those are the braised mustard greens. A little bit of meat trimmings in there, smoked cider vinegar. These are the baked beans, creamy coleslaw, smoked tomato mac and cheese. We make the cheese sauce out of Merck's cheddar. Then we have our pulled pork there, and then the beef brisket at the very end. Underneath all that is a slice of Texas toast to kind of soak in all the juices, you know. It's a good way to end the meal.
You need a solid carb move after all of this meat to balance out.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to the rib because this is your innovation.
Yeah,
this is your move. This is your thing.
Well,
how much of this do you eat regularly? Because
I gotta taste it every day. You know, someone's got to do it, I guess. So I take that role very seriously and with a smile on my face.
All right, so we're gonna come back to that.
Yeah.
Because we're in Milwaukee, I want to give attention and not short shrift to these smoky links.
Yep.
So this is, remind me, this is a pork blend.
It's a pork blend. So we have the ground pork, the grandpa spice that we use, and a little bit of diced pork loin mixed in. So you have a nice texture with that. And being that it's smoked, you get a nice snap of the skin.
I mean, you're in Milwaukee, you're a chef, you gotta make a great stuff. This is a great sausage. All right, so I'm gonna go to this soft, look at that pink, great crispy edge. This is what we've loved to eat and what changed our bodies for a million years.
Good. Hot, tender, juicy.
So does the Midwest have a barbecue tradition?
I think that everyone has their own definition of what barbecue is to them. And for me, and in most basic level, it doesn't even have to be meat for that matter. It's about fire. And it's the one thing I preach here is that the fire is the most important aspect. So if you're cooking with fire, and be it vegetable or meat, and you're outside and you're having a good old time lighting that fire and watching the fire throughout the day, then you're doing barbecue.
But dude, thanks.
Yeah,
just
thank you.
delicious.
Glad you
yeah,
enjoyed.
I'm so glad that your life went and veered back to the first siren song that you heard. Yeah, in the south side of Chicago.
I'm glad too.
Yeah, cool. All right.
Me, cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Is that good? Okay, now you're ready to go. Careful where you step. Now you need more. Should we go find some more flowers that need some water? No, don't dump it here. Ah!
I don't know why, but this is always like the,
Yeah,
one of the
always,
good
yeah.
shots for TV when you see the guy like.
I'm making a mess of myself in the best way.
Yeah.
Barbecue hands.
Wisconsin Foodie would like to thank the following underwriters for their support: Wisconsin Milk Marketing Board and the Dairy Farm Families of Wisconsin.
Packaging your vision for agricultural products.
American Kitchen Cookware is helping food lovers everywhere embrace their own culinary adventure. Outpost Natural Foods, a proud supporter of local, organic, and Wisconsin foodie. Society Insurance, small details, big difference. Potawatomi Hotel and Casino. The Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources. Lamers Bus Lines, providing Wisconsin with deluxe motor coach service, school busing, and more. Also, with support of the Friends of Wisconsin Public Television.
Wisconsin Milk Marketing Board, representing the dairy farm families of Wisconsin, who fostered a proud history with generations of family-owned dairy farms, working to sustain the state's economy through job growth and providing acclaimed cheeses and other dairy products.
Every product tells a story, and every story starts with a seed. Your story, your product, your company all started with an idea. Illing Company ensures you have the right packaging to help you proudly take your harvest to market. Illing Company is dedicated to packaging your vision.
American Kitchen Cookware is proud to support Wisconsin Foodie in helping food lovers everywhere embrace their own culinary adventure. With cookware manufactured right here in Wisconsin, we're working every day to make people's lives better in and out of the kitchen.